Holy Octoroks, that was rad. I better call Tyler.
Alright, well, let's see what's going on for today. Well, that shouldn't be too hard. Hey Cam from Gamebird Classic, what's going on? You wanted to talk about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity for Nintendo Switch trademark? I can do that, yeah. Hey, listen, I'm ready whenever you are. Alright? Alright, that sounds good. I'll catch you later, alright? But I'll catch you later, but hey, listen, I gotta go walk the neighbor's fish. I'll be right back, okay? Alright, bye-bye. Hi, customer service, yes. I would like to speak to someone who can help me change my phone number.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Gamebird Classic. Today we have Retro Tyler, my good friend, back once again to discuss with you the newly announced Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. What is up, Tyler? How you doing, man?
Nothing much. I'm hanging in there. It's great to be back. How are you doing, Cam?
I'm doing good, and I'm glad to have you back, especially now that we have a new game to talk about from Nintendo.
Oh yeah, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
That's right. So let's just dive right in, man. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your hype for this? Are you really hyped? Not so hyped? It's a Warriors
I don't want to
game.
get too much hate for this. I'm not all that hyped. I'm gonna say a 5 to a 6. A 5 to a 6
to a
for
6.
me.
Okay.
What are you thinking over there?
I'm a little bit higher than you on this. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest Warriors fan. I've played a couple of the Dynasty Warriors games. Hyrule Warriors being my favorite, obviously, because it fuses Legend of Zelda in there. But I'm going to say a little bit higher because we are getting some what might be canon lore from Breath of the Wild in this
Might
one.
be.
We don't know for sure. And we could talk about it a little bit more later in this discussion. There were a few tidbits in the teaser that I noticed that kind of break canon of the story. But still, getting that story of what led up to the events of Breath of the Wild is pretty exciting for me. So,
very exciting. Absolutely.
I'm going to put my level at a 7, a little bit higher than yours. Did you play the previous game in the series?
I played a little bit of the previous
Dabbled.
game. That's what has me as at that 5 to a 6, just because it wasn't really story based. I felt like people wanted to play Hyrule Warriors to play as their favorite Legend of Zelda characters, but now with Age of Calamity, people have a reason to play. They want to see how their favorite heroes die.
Yeah,
that's why they're playing.
that's the only reason. Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be brutal. It's interesting going into this knowing that it's a death march.
It's almost heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. Yeah, it's bittersweet. Yeah, I played a bunch of Hyrule Warriors, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I mean, it obviously is not at the level of your typical Zelda game, and doesn't very much feel like a Zelda game, but I do feel like it was a really nice kind of tribute to the series. It pulled from all the different games.
It brought everything together into one place.
Yeah.
It was a good experience. It was a good experience.
Totally. From the music to the characters and all the little details. I like that they added some of the bosses from the series, like King Dodongo and the Goma Spider Queen in there with some of the mechanics from the Zelda games. It was pretty good for what it was.
What you would call a love letter.
A love letter to
totally.
the series. Yep, exactly. So let's dig into what we know so far on this game. We know that it's 100 years in the past. Mm-hmm. Is that exciting to you? Is that a part of the series that you want to explore more, that you maybe thought about when you're playing Breath of the Wild?
Absolutely. I think that's a really interesting aspect to dive into. It's 100 years before. In Breath of the Wild, you start off as Link in the Chamber of Resurrection. We figure, how the hell did we get there? So it is exciting to see what got us to where we are at the beginning of Breath of the Wild. Absolutely interesting.
Right. Yeah, I think you saw I did a video about some of the big changes I'd like to see in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. And in there, I mentioned story was very light in that game. And this is an opportunity to kind of flesh out those characters, see the champions in their time of glory in a way that we didn't get to in Breath of the Wild. And so for that, I'm really excited. It was kind of a pain having to piece together everything through memories that you may have collected out of order in the original
And they
game.
were optional.
They were optional,
as
yeah.
well, most of them.
Completely.
It's like you can get into the story if you want, but you don't have to.
It kind of reminded me of the Dark Souls approach, where the Dark Souls series has a ton of lore behind it, but it's not really in your face. You kind of find it through reading descriptions of armor that you pick up and weapons that you pick up, things like that.
It's there
so
if
it'll be
you're
exciting.
interested.
Sure, if you're interested in it. I am interested in that stuff, so of all the things that I'm probably excited for the most, it's getting kind of a more fleshed out story of the past. We know that obviously it's a Warriors game, so there's going to be multiple playable characters. We've got Mipha, the Zora, Daruk, the Goron. Is it Rivali?
Rivali, yes.
Yeah, Rivali and Zelda, obviously. Is there any character in particular that you're excited to play as, or anyone that piques your interest?
I think Rivali, because he was such
okay.
He's such a
nice
you either
guy.
love him or you hate him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was such a jerk, but you almost loved him. It was almost charming. So I feel like people would be interested to see what makes him so proud of who he is and what makes him just what he is. So if we get to dive into this dynamic character, I think that'd be really interesting. Definitely Rivali for me.
Sure. And I think it'll be cool to see kind of the rivalry. You know that him and Link there was some envy there. It'll be cool to see that fleshed out a little bit more.
Oh yeah, you stupid land dweller.
But are there any characters that you'd like to see in the game? I'm assuming there's going to be more than just Link, Zelda, and the champions. We might see Impa, possibly the king even of Hyrule as a playable character. Do you expect to see that, or do you think it's just going to be more focused with Link and the champions?
I really think it's just going to be a Link and the champions. I'm not too sure how you could fit an old Impa in there. I know she can kick some butt, but I'm not sure how much butt she can kick if you catch my draft.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's fair to say she'll definitely be there for the story, at least. There's a shot in the game where it shows that Link, Zelda, before the king in the castle, and you see a character kneeling down with white hair. I think it's safe to assume that's probably Impa there with them.
I think she'll have the same role as she did in Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, she led you through these memories if you decide to go through them, but I think she'll be there as the guiding figure in the story for this game as well.
It's a good character for it. Do you think it's possible that we'd see new characters that weren't even in Breath of the Wild? We know the Great Calamity happened. Everyone dies. It's a complete massacre. Could there possibly be characters that weren't even in Breath of the Wild?
You know, I really wouldn't be surprised if they did that just to throw a curveball at us, right? Some characters that were important but died in the Great War leading up to it, so we never got to see them. Characters that we can definitely get attached to. I wouldn't be surprised. That's not that much of a curveball to me.
Yeah, I think so too. I think given it's Dynasty Warriors as well, they're going to want to throw some of their own original characters in it. They did that with the first Hyrule Warriors. They had, I forget her name. The sorceress. There was the evil sorceress.
Oh,
that
I can't think of the name either.
I can't remember.
I can't think of the name.
She was very memorable, obviously. But as well as a couple other characters like Linkle, the female Link. And
the really non-canon characters.
Yeah. But yeah, I could totally see them doing that. One of the things that was obviously really notable in the trailer that I think heightened my excitement was the art style. This didn't have that cheaper look that Hyrule Warriors had. This looked a lot like Breath of the Wild. The characters and the animations and the cutscenes kind of felt like they were pulled right out. So that's something that I personally really enjoyed. Do you agree, or?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think they're using that to their advantage. If anything, I think it looks better than Breath of the Wild. Just because, keep in mind, Breath of the Wild was designed for the Wii U, if you remember that. If anyone out there remembers the Wii U, tell them we're thinking of them. But this was definitely designed for the Switch. You can definitely tell it's so much crisper, so much cleaner. The colors pop a little bit more.
I was just about to say that.
I am totally expecting a better picture and better quality from this game.
Sure. Yeah, I was just about to say that about the colors because that's what I noticed. The colors were a lot more vibrant in this, whereas in Breath of the Wild, I feel like they were a little bit washed out. That granted,
Definitely.
that game's gorgeous. I love that style in that game. I'm not sure about the world though. I'm curious how the world's going to look in game, just because it is a Warriors game. They're going to be generating
Right.
hundreds of enemies at once, so I'm sure there might be a little bit of quality loss there. But as far as the character models and animations, that stuff I thought was beautiful.
Oh, definitely. I think they can sacrifice some of the environment a little bit if they make the characters look better.
Right.
No, if you have 100 guys coming at you, you're not going to be worried about the wall in the back.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Another thing that has me more excited about this than I was for the first Hyrule Warriors game is Eiji Aonuma, the producer of Zelda, announced that the Zelda team was much more hands-on in the development of this game, helping out with story building, helping out with the character models and animations and the cutscenes and the world design. I feel like we're going to get a more Zelda-like experience this time around. Obviously, it's still a Warriors game, so keep your expectations in check. Don't expect you're getting a real Breath of the Wild
A
prequel.
mainline series game. Yeah.
It's definitely still a Warriors game, but I think that's something to be excited about for Zelda fans.
Absolutely.
Just knowing that there might be a little bit more of that Zelda flair. It might feel a lot closer to a Zelda game than the last did.
Oh, definitely, hands down.
Right. And then, yeah, so the crazy part is that we got that Mario announcement, and I'm sure you were with me thinking that was probably, they've been so quiet this year that was probably it for the big holiday game. Even though
That's what I was thinking.
Even though it was launching, it's launching this month in September. I thought that there was a chance that they would announce something else, but not as the big holiday game, maybe a December release. But it looks like we got our holiday game, our November release, just in time for holiday, and it is Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. What do you think of that as the holiday title? Do you think it's enough?
It's interesting. I think it's interesting. I would say it is enough, because if it was just a regular Hyrule Warriors game like the last one, I'd say no, that's not enough. But this one is so much story-based compared to the last one.
Sure.
And it's feeding into one of the biggest games that Nintendo has released in Breath of the Wild. So because of that, because of the story and the impact it has on another game, I think it is absolutely adequate for the holiday release.
Sure.
More than suffice.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think just having that Breath of the Wild branding behind it is going to be massive for this game. I don't think this is going to be like this insane blockbuster, but I think it's going to sell really well. And I think people who are kind of concerned for this being their holiday release are going to be pleasantly surprised. Breath of the Wild, that name alone carries a lot of weight. That game's gone on to become the most beloved Zelda game. I really feel like it's surpassed, obviously not in nostalgia with Ocarina of Time, but as far as like a mainline Zelda games, as far as a blockbuster Zelda game, that game has gone on to become immortalized for Nintendo, probably forever. Right. So I think people who really got lost in Breath of the Wild are gonna look forward to getting a peek at what happened 100 years before. So I think it's gonna sell pretty darn good.
It should sell well. It should sell well.
Do you think that this game is gonna have any teases or clues as to what we can expect for Breath of the Wild 2, or maybe some story hints on Ganon, or any clues?
If anything, I think it will be story hints, because they may talk about Ganon a little bit more. They may talk about some of the lore leading up to it. Some of the stuff that happened even before that we don't necessarily know about the current characters in the game. Obviously, it's the prequel, but if they give a hint as to what happened to Ganon, that would be huge.
Yeah.
Ganondorf, rather. That would be absolutely huge. So they might throw some subtle story hints in there. Something that you really have to keep your eye on, though. They're not going to come right out and just yell it at you.
Right.
Something you have to keep your eye on, though.
I mean, they've done similar before. If you played A Link Between Worlds in the shop, there's a Majora's Mask hanging on the wall, and then it was like the following year we got announcement that we're getting Majora's Mask on the 3D. It could be something as subtle as that. You just never know with Nintendo, the way they like to tease the fans. One thing that does have me concerned about this game as far as sales go is that it launches a day after Cyberpunk. And I know the audiences are different, but that's a big holiday game. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who have the Switch as their secondary console who are probably very thrilled to get their hands on Cyberpunk and might hold off on Hyrule Warriors to a later time. Do you think a big title like that is going to affect the excitement around Hyrule Warriors?
Let me say this, as someone whose Switch is their primary console, I do not care about Cyberpunk. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't give a crap about it. I'm not even worried about it. You know what? I completely forgot about it until you mentioned it just now.
I'm so sorry.
It's just the Switch is my primary console.
There you go.
I have a PS4 and then I have an Xbox One. That's my Hulu machine. But I'm not running out to get Cyberpunk.
There you go.
Whenever I have money set aside for a holiday release, I know for a fact it's going towards whatever Nintendo is coming out with.
Sure. Well, you are a true Nintendo fan. The Cyberpunk fans are going to be loving you in the comment sections.
They're going to burn me at the stake for that one.
I'll be there with a bag of popcorn, man.
Cool.
Rooting for you, of course. Cheering you on, of course.
The underdog.
The underdog. Yeah, I always love the underdog. And so I mentioned earlier that that this is potentially canon. We don't know for sure. Do you think that this is going to be canon or partially canon? I mean, Zelda's working on this. The Zelda team's working on this. So, and they're helping.
I'll say this. So, depending on how much they throw at us and how much those game theory guys want to grab from this, it might be considered canon. It just might be, depending on how much information they throw at us. If it's enough to hint at what actually happened in Breath of the Wild, or how many hints it can give to the sequel, it might just be canon, might just be enough. I'm very hesitant on that at the moment, though. Very hesitant. Right.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting a canon storyline. This is so cool. And then a lot of the community kind of broke down. There's obviously a lot of breakdown videos of that trailer. And a lot of people pointed out Zelda's using the Sheikah Slate with the Sheikah powers. And that doesn't really fit in line with the canon of Breath of the Wild, because she's studying, obviously, to fulfill her purpose. And you're kind of the hero, and you're learning and uncovering the secrets of the Sheikah Slate in Breath of the Wild.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a oddball, but I still feel like the majority of this game is going to be canon. I think they've got to make Zelda have some interesting mechanics for her combat, and the Sheikah Slate is a great way for them to do that.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, do you have any hopes or expectations? Anything you'd like to see in this? Anything translate over from the Zelda series or Breath of the Wild in general?
The only thing that I really want them to pull from is if they take this Hyrule Warriors concept, and if they pull as much from Breath of the Wild as they can and make it just part of that big brand name of Breath of the Wild Hyrule Warriors type game, that is all I could look forward to. That's really what would do it for me. Just because Breath of the Wild, like you said, carries so much weight just because of the name. It's because it's just taken over Nintendo crowd by storm, really.
Sure.
Wherever you go, whenever you go into a GameStop, listen, if you go in there and you say, "Can I have a copy of Breath of the Wild?" They say, "Oh my God, that's the best game ever!" Like in every GameStop.
Yep.
And that's the only thing I would really want from this, is if they can just pull everything that they can from the Breath of the Wild name and just hone in on it, make it their own.
Yeah. I mean, some good signs that I saw in there. Obviously, we're getting the Sheikah Slate powers, which is rad. I noticed there's a short clip in the trailer where it shows Link shield surfing, so that's a mechanic from Breath of the Wild that they brought back, which is really cool. I'm hoping to see some armor changes, and I don't know, I feel like if they can incorporate maybe some more puzzle mechanics. I know it's a Warriors game, so it's not really about the exploration and the puzzle solving, but if they can somehow find a way to mesh more puzzle mechanics, maybe bring climbing back. That would be kind of cool to
really the Hyrule Warriors game.
Yeah, you never know, new ways to explore the campaign. It would be
climb
cool.
Up a fallen wall and get away from your enemies.
You never know. I think that could be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm pretty excited. I know we're going to be getting some new information on the game on the 26th, so about 10 days from now. I
Is
believe
that
that's
Tokyo Game Show?
Yeah, I believe it's the Tokyo
Tokyo Game
Game
Show.
Show. So maybe you and I can do another video after that when we get more details and kind of
definitely
go over our thoughts on how we feel post more gameplay and details, if our hype has gone up or down at all.
I was really expecting them to come out on the 26th and say, here is some information on the sequel.
That's
I feel
what
like
I
we
thought.
already know enough. I feel like we know enough
Yeah.
about this. I'm more interested in the sequel.
Sure. Yeah, you and me both. You know, I have a feeling, my guess is that we're gonna see Breath of the Wild 2 again at the Game Awards.
They just don't want to say it up front.
They just don't want to say it up front. And it wouldn't be anything strange for Nintendo, because we did get one of the first gameplay reveals for the original Breath of the Wild at the Game Awards, when it showed like Miyamoto sitting down playing with Eiji Aonuma on the Wii U, and they were showing him hang glide and talking about the horses in the open world.
Yep.
I feel like that's the time, and I really can't think of a better way to get people excited for Breath of the Wild 2 than giving them a taste of that world once again. I think it's actually kind of a good idea to be like, hey, you know that Breath of the Wild 2 sequel? We'll experience the events that happened 100 years before the first one to get amped for the second one. So cool. Any final thoughts? Anything else you'd like to add for
Any final
Age of Calamity?
thoughts? I said it was a 5 to 6, but I'm really hoping that it's a 7 to an 8. By the time our next event comes out, I really hope it's a 7 to an 8.
Yeah, very cool. I think there's potential for excitement to go up. I hope it bumps me up to an 8 right now. I'm going to stick with my 7.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see more. But guys, what do you think? Are you excited for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity? Let us both know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this discussion with Retro Tyler, hit that like button, it helps the channel out. Also, smash that subscription button and smash that notification bell so you can see when I upload next. Tyler will be back. He's going to be a bigger part of this channel, and I'm excited to work more with him in the future. Thank you guys. I will see you next time.
And I'll catch you all later.
Peace. What are you doing? I still have tons more videos that you need to check out right now. You can start with this one or this one. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.